It was a Tuesday morning when Sarah walked into my study, clutching the one thing I thought I'd never let go of, the $1 million painting, a gift from my late wife. The painting that had once been my anchor now sat heavy in my chest like a lead weight. A gift, yes. But it was more than that. It was a piece of her, my wife, Catherine. She had always said it was our family's treasure, and I believed her. How could I not? It was the last tangible link I had to her. Sarah stood in the doorway, her hand trembling slightly as she held the painting. "You need to sell it, Dad," she said, her voice soft but laced with something almost insistent. "It's Sep's cursed." "Cursed?" I froze, my gaze flickering between Sarah's face and the painting in her hands. "Cursed," I repeated, as if the word itself could explain the sudden chasm between us. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. Sarah's eyes widened, filled with exaggerated concern, like she was reading from a well-rehearsed script. "It's been causing you bad luck. Ever since Mom passed, everything's been falling apart. You've been sick more than usual. Your business is struggling. This is all because of the painting, Dad." She set the painting down on the table with careful precision, her hands never fully leaving the edges, like it was something fragile, something dangerous. I stared at the painting, its bright colors and vivid hues now tainted by her words. Was she right? Could something so beautiful, something so dear to me, be responsible for all the chaos that had followed Catherine's death? I tried to shake the thought away, but it clung to me like a shadow I couldn't outrun. "What do you mean by cursed?" I asked, keeping my voice steady though I felt anything but calm. Sarah Sip's gaze softened, her voice lowering to a whisper. "You sip in having these strange accidents, things breaking down, financial mistakes you never used to make. The painting, Mom Sip's gift, it's been bringing you nothing but misery." I couldn't look away from it. The painting was just that, an inanimate object. It couldn't be cursed, could it? Yet, as I stood there, all I could see was Catherine's face, her smile frozen forever in that image. The weight of her absence pressed harder with every passing day. Losing her was enough. Did I really want to lose this too? I ran my fingers over the cold wood of the frame. "You start saying that this," I gestured toward the painting, "this is causing all my problems." Sarah nodded, her expression now filled with urgency. "Dad, we need to get rid of it. You self feel lighter, free of this bad energy. We can sell it. We can sell it. We shall be able to fix everything." My chest tightened as I glanced at the painting again, trying to shake off the feeling of betrayal I couldn't name. This wasn't just about a piece of art anymore. It was about the last connection I had to Catherine, the last piece of her I could hold on to. But then a flicker of doubt crept in. Could Sarah be right? Could the weight of my grief be blocking my judgment? Could this painting, this final memory, actually be holding me back? I didn't know the answer, but I knew one thing for certain. I was vulnerable. And Sarah, she knew exactly how to play me. "All right," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "If it sucks causing trouble, sell it." The moment the words left my mouth, I felt the loss. A deep visceral sting in my chest that spread outward, like the painting itself had cracked open a part of me. I wasn't ready to face, but it was too late. The damage was done. After the painting was gone, the emptiness grew louder. The house felt colder, the walls pressing in tighter as if the absence of that one piece had taken the warmth with it. Sarah, her smile more calculating now than comforting, left shortly after the sale. She said she had work to do, but I knew it was something more, something I couldn't yet put into words. Days blended together in a haze of grief, guilt, and regret. The painting had been my last connection to Catherine, my final piece of her, but now, it was gone. And with it, I felt like I had lost my identity, my sense of self. How could I live with this? I wandered through the house aimlessly, trying to find something that would anchor me, but every room seemed like a ghost of what it used to be. The echoes of Catherine's laughter in the kitchen, the smell of her perfume lingering in the hallway, it all vanished the moment Sarah convinced me to sell that painting. That night, I sat at the dining table, the weight of the silence pressing down on me. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Dad, it seps for the best. You weigh. Cell C." This is just the start of things getting better. I stared at it, knowing the words should bring me some relief. But instead, they only made my stomach churn. This wasn't better, this was emptiness. My hand trembled as I placed the phone down. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Had I been right all along? Was selling the painting really the only way to move forward? Or had I just let Sarah manipulate me into throwing away the last piece of my wife? I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being watched, that everything around me was closing in. Every creak in the house seemed louder. Every rustle in the wind carried a whisper of something ominous. I couldn't shake the unease. But then, one night, I noticed something, a pattern. It was subtle, almost insignificant at first. But there it was. Sarah's behavior had changed. She'd always been distant, but now it was different. She was colder, dismissive. Each conversation was met with a defensive tone, as if she were hiding something. I found myself pacing the house late one evening, my thoughts spiraling. What if she hadn't been honest? What if the curse wasn't a lie? What if it wasn't just about the painting? What if it was about something else, something bigger? That tense when I saw it. I was digging through an old drawer, searching for something, anything, to distract myself when I found the letter. It was from Catherine. It wasn't one I remembered, but there at the bottom of the pile was an old envelope with her handwriting on it. I tore it open, my heart pounding. It wasn't a letter, but a journal entry. Thomas, you and I have built a life together. A life filled with love, yes. But we both know that family loyalty is what keeps us grounded. Don't ever let go of what you have. Remember, the ties that bind us are stronger than any material possession. The heart is what matters. I stared at the words, feeling a tightness in my chest. She had written this long before she passed. The weight of it hit me harder than anything I had felt in days. Family. Loyalty. Those words echoed in my mind. How had I let Sarah manipulate me like this? How could I have been so blind? But it was too late for regrets. The painting was gone, and with it I was slowly losing myself. I couldn't stand the guilt anymore. The confusion, the emotional collapse. My fingers fumbled as I reached for my phone, dialing Mark's number. I needed to know what had really happened to that painting. I needed answers before it was too late to get them. The phone rang once, twice. Hello? Mark's voice was gruff, but steady. I need your help, I said, my voice cracking. I think I've been taken for a fool. There was a pause on the other end. Then Mark Sepp's voice softened. What's Sepp's going on? I need to know everything about that painting, I said, my breath shallow. I need to know if Sarah had something to do with it, if she manipulated me into selling it. Mark let out a sigh, something between frustration and sympathy. Thomas. I said I'll dig into it. We said I'll figure this out. I set the phone down, the weight of his words sinking in. I had finally taken the first step toward uncovering the truth, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was brewing beneath the surface. Was this really just about money, or was it about something much worse? The night stretched on in silence, but my mind refused to stop. I had to know. I had to find out what Sarah was hiding. I was done letting my grief control me. The time for healing had passed. Now it was time for justice. I couldn't sleep that night. The journal entry from Catherine lingered in my mind, twisting with every thought. The weight of her words haunted me. Don't ever let go of what you have. Remember, the ties that bind us are stronger than any material possession. How had I let myself be manipulated like this? How had I allowed Sarah to play on my grief and push me to sell the painting? I couldn't answer that. Not yet. But I would find out the truth. I was done letting this consume me. I reached for my phone and dialed Mark's number again. The line clicked almost immediately, his voice gruff but ready. Mark. It's time to dig deeper, I said, the edge in my voice sharp. I need everything, every detail you can find on Sarah. Financials, emails, anything. Mark was silent for a moment before responding. I've been looking into her for the last few days, Thomas. She's hiding something, I can feel it. I'll dig further. I exhaled, the tension in my chest easing a little. I was finally taking control. The weight of my grief and guilt was still there, But now there was a new fire. The plan had to be set in motion. I spent the next few days gathering what I could: records, old receipts, the video of Sarah's conversation with the art dealer that had somehow slipped past me. I scoured through emails trying to connect the dots. Sarah had been clever, meticulous, but I wasn't going to let her win. By Thursday afternoon, I had my first real breakthrough. I had noticed a strange payment in her bank account, a large sum of money transferred to a private art dealer, the same dealer who had been involved with the sale of the painting. I was shocked. I had to know more. It was time to go deeper. I reached out to David, the lawyer I had known for years, who had always been there to help when things got complicated. He was hesitant at first, but after I explained the situation, he agreed to help. He'd always had a soft spot for me. "We can get her for this, Thomas. Yusuf got proof, but you need more. We subpoena her records if we need to," David said, his tone a little too calm, but his words sent a chill down my spine. "But be careful, she sips your daughter. This is going to be a difficult road to walk." "I am past caring about that," I snapped. "She Sips betrayed me. She Sips taken everything from me, and now it's Sep's time to pay the price." David sighed. "I shall get started on the paperwork, but you need to make sure you are ready. This will destroy her life." The words stung, but they were true. Sarah had already destroyed so much of mine. Now I was ready to watch her burn. The next few days were a blur. Mark came back with more information, texts, more financial transactions to shady dealers, and worst of all, a phone conversation where Sarah admitted to using the painting as collateral for a series of mounting debts. I couldn't believe it. The curse she had sold me wasn't real. The only thing cursed here was my ability to see the truth until it was almost too late. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the documents spread across my desk. Everything was falling into place. My next move was clear. The art dealer was going to be my next target. He had to know everything about Sarah's manipulation. If I could prove that she had been orchestrating the entire scheme for months, I'd have the leverage I needed. I wasn't going to let her slip away. The plan was set, but there was still one more thing I had to do. I needed to confront Sarah. She was at the house again, of course, pretending like nothing had happened, like the painting wasn't gone, like her betrayal wasn't weighing on both of us. She smiled as she entered the room. "How are you, Dad? You look better, lighter. I told you selling that painting would do you good." Her voice, so sweet and innocent, was a mask I could see through now. She wasn't fooling me. I could feel the tension rise between us, her careful choice of words only serving to fuel the fire in my gut. "I stum not better, Sarah," I said, my voice low and controlled. "I stum not lighter. I stum just waking up to the truth." Her smile faltered for a second before it was replaced with her usual smirk. "The truth about what Yusuf done, about how Yusuf been manipulating me. I know about the payments, the dealer, the debt." I leaned forward, watching her face go pale. "I know everything." For a moment she stood there frozen, her eyes darting between me and the door like she was considering running. But then she steadied herself and gave a nervous laugh. "You really think I set do that, Dad? I set your daughter. I only wanted what set is best for you." Her words were hollow, empty, but I could see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. "I think you have done more than just that," I said quietly. "And you said we're going to pay for it." I stood up, the anger in my chest now boiling over. She was cornered, and she didn't even know it yet. I knew I couldn't just rush into this. The more I thought about it, the clearer it became. I needed to play this carefully, methodically. Sarah thought she had control, that she could manipulate me into selling the painting and make her escape with the money. But she was wrong. This wasn't about just getting back what was mine. It was about making her feel every single ounce of the betrayal she'd caused me. It had been a week since my confrontation with Sarah. She'd left, storming out of the house, but I could tell she was rattled. For the first time in a long while, I had the upper hand, and I wasn't going to waste it. Mark had been hard at work, digging deeper into Sarah's financials. He'd uncovered more troubling transactions, thousands of dollars going to various places, all linked back to the art dealer. It wasn't just a matter of manipulation anymore. It was fraud. She had been laundering money using the painting as collateral. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. I spent the next few days compiling everything I could: bank statements, email correspondence between Sarah and the dealer, texts between Sarah and some shady characters I didn't recognize. The more I uncovered, the more my rage simmered beneath the surface. This wasn't just a daughter's betrayal, it was something darker, something far more sinister. But I had to be careful. I wasn't going to storm into her life and start throwing accusations without proof. I needed more. I needed everything to line up so there was no way for her to escape, no way for her to manipulate the story. It was going to be precise, clean. I made the decision. I would meet with the art dealer. I had to confront him, get him to admit what he knew about Sarah's dealings. If I could get him on record, the whole plan would fall into place. He was the key to exposing her completely. I arranged the meeting under the guise of wanting to discuss the cursed painting. I knew it was risky, but I didn't care. I was done letting Sarah control the narrative. This time I was calling the shots. The art dealer's office was tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. I had been there before, but not for something like this. I walked through the glass doors, my mind focused on the task ahead. The dealer, a sharp-dressed man named Vincent, greeted me with a forced smile. "Mr. Caldwell, it's good to see you again. I trust you're still pleased with the sale?" he asked, his voice smooth, rehearsed. "I'm not here to talk about that," I said, cutting him off. "I need answers, Vincent, about the painting." Vincent's Sitsness smile faltered for a second, but he quickly recovered. "Answers? I'm afraid I don't Sitsness quite understand." "I know about the transactions," I interrupted. "I know you've been dealing with Sarah, using the painting as collateral, and I know she's been running up debts, with your help." Vincent Sefst's face went pale, but he quickly masked it, his eyes darting around the room. "I don't know what you start talking about, Mr. Caldwell. I've been nothing but professional." "Don't lie to me," I said, leaning forward. "I have the evidence. Bank records, emails, texts. I know exactly what you've been doing, Vincent." The man's composure cracked. Just a fraction, but it was enough. He started to sweat, his fingers fidgeting with a pen on the desk. "Listen, Thomas, I don't know what you think you have, but you are mistaken. I didn't mean for any of this to. But I'm not here for your excuses," I said, my voice low and deadly calm. "I want you to tell me everything you know about Sarah Sips's plan. The truth, or I will make sure you never work in this city again. I will ruin you." Vincent looked at me, his eyes narrowing. "You can just threaten me. I'm not afraid of you." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "You should be. You already made your bed, Vincent. Now you are going to lie in it." For a long moment there was silence. Then finally Vincent spoke, his voice shaking. All right. I still tell you everything. Just don't do anything rash." He let out a deep breath and began to explain. Sarah had come to him months ago, desperate for money. She had promised him a cut from the sale of the painting, in exchange for using it to secure loans. When the debts piled up, she had used the painting to back even more money from other sources. She was playing a dangerous game, and Vincent had been all too happy to help her. But as he spoke, something caught my attention. He mentioned a second painting, one that Sarah had bought from him a few weeks ago. The same art dealer had secretly transferred ownership to a third party, but he hadn't been told who the buyer was. That's when I realized something. I had been blind to a bigger part of Sarah's plan. She wasn't just selling the painting. She was preparing to sell it again, and I was the one holding the bag. I felt a wave of cold fury wash over me. The betrayal was deeper than I thought. This wasn't just about money. It was about Sarah setting herself up for something far worse, and I was in the middle of it. "I'll need the records for that second sale," I said, my tone colder than ever. "If you want to stay out of prison, you'll get them from me, now." Vincent nodded slowly, fear in his eyes. "Okay, I'll get it for you. But you have to promise." "I promise nothing," I said, my voice hard. "You get me the records, or this goes public. Do I make myself clear?" He nodded again, and I stood up, leaving the office with the taste of victory in my mouth. But it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The family dinner was only a few days away, but I had everything in place. The plan was meticulous, the evidence irrefutable, and I was ready to strike. Sarah had no idea what was coming. She thought she was in control, but she didn't understand the depths of my resolve. She didn't know that every step she'd taken, every lie, every deceit had led her to this moment. I would bring her down, and I would do it in front of everyone who mattered. The fake painting was ready. Mark had helped me acquire it, an exact replica of the original. Only this one had been altered just enough to pass, as the cursed one Sarah had sold. I knew she'd be too focused on the curse to notice the subtle differences. It would be the perfect way to expose her. I spent the evening at home, going over everything one last time. The emails, the receipts, the video recordings, all laid out on the table in front of me. Every single piece of evidence I had gathered would come together tonight, like a symphony of betrayal. I checked my phone again, nothing from Sarah. She hadn't even reached out to confirm the time for the dinner. That only made me more certain that she believed she was going to get away with everything. She had no idea that the trap was already set. I called David, my lawyer, just to confirm one last detail. "Everything's SEP's in place," I said. "The art dealer SEP's records, the bank statements, the emails. Sarah SEP's gone too far this time. She won't step be able to wriggle out of this." David SEP's voice was calm, steady, good. "You SEP's built your case. But remember, when it all comes crashing down, you need to stay focused. This will be a long road, and there will be collateral damage." "I don't care about collateral damage," I said, my voice sharp. "She destroyed everything I had. Now I said I'm going to make sure she pays for it." The phone call ended, and I took a deep breath. The weight of the situation was starting to sink in. I wasn't just confronting my daughter. I was destroying her future, her reputation, everything she had worked for. But she had forced my hand. She had taken the one thing I cared about most. I spent the next few hours preparing for the dinner. I arranged the fake painting, made sure everything was in order, and set up the digital recorder hidden in the corner of the room. There was no room for error. If I was going to do this, I needed every word on record. No one could say I didn't have the proof. At 6 o'clock, Sarah walked through the door. Just as I expected, her face was calm, composed. But I could see the cracks starting to show. She knew something was off, but she didn't know what. Yet, "Hey, Dad," she said, with that same fake sweetness. "It's been a while since we sep done this. It's will be good to have a nice family dinner again, don't sept you think?" I didn't set answer right away. Instead, I gestured to the table where the fake painting was set up behind a glass case. "I thought we set start with something special tonight. A little reminder of what sep's been lost." Sarah Sip's eyes flickered toward the painting, then back at me. The smile never left her face, but it was thinner now, more strained. "I see you Sips kept the painting," she said, her voice tightening. I thought we agreed it was time to let go." "We did," I said, my voice cold, "but I didn't realize how much you were really hiding from me. You never thought I would find out, did you, Sarah? You thought I was just a grieving fool, but I been watching you. I been listening." Her face faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered, her hands folding in front of her. "What are you talking about, Dad?" I stepped closer, my eyes never leaving hers. "I know everything, Sarah. I know about the money transfers, the debt, the art dealer. I know how you been using that painting to cover up your lies." The room fell silent. For a brief moment, Sarah was still, as if the words had hit her harder than she expected. Then she let out a laugh, but it was hollow, desperate. "Dad, this is insane. You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I am saying," I interrupted, pulling the digital recorder out of my pocket and setting it on the table. "Everything you done, Sarah. Everything is on record." She froze. "I'm not just going to sit back and let you take everything from me," I continued. "I been preparing for this moment, and now you are going to see exactly what happens when you betray your own flesh and blood." Her eyes darted to the recorder, and for the first time I saw a flicker of fear in them. "You can't do this," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I already have," I said, taking a step back. "This is bigger than the painting. This is about everything you have destroyed, everything you have taken from me. I stood there for a moment, letting the silence stretch between us. I could see the anger in her eyes, the panic creeping in. But it was too late. She couldn't talk her way out of this. She couldn't lie her way out of this. And just as the tension reached its peak, I placed the final piece of evidence on the table, the records from the art dealer, showing the illegal transaction, proving everything she had done. I slid them across to her. "This is where it ends, Sarah," I said. My voice unwavering, "You're done." The family dinner was set for the following night, and the weight of everything that had been building up was almost unbearable. I had already laid my plans. The fake painting was in place, the records were ready, and I had made sure that the key players, Mark, David, the art dealer, were all on standby. Everything was set, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah wasn't just nervous about the dinner. She was panicking. She knew something was wrong, even if she didn't know exactly what. It had been a long week of playing the part, pretending to be the father who just wanted to have a nice family meal, the grieving man who had finally moved on from the past. But every word I said, every smile I gave, was calculated. I had to keep up the act. If she suspected anything, if she thought I was onto her, the entire plan could fall apart. I watched her carefully in the days leading up to the dinner. She was acting strange, more nervous, more defensive. She avoided my questions about the art dealer, about her finances. Every time I asked her how things were going with her investments, she'd change the subject. It was clear she was hiding something, but I had to wait. Patience was key. I needed to let her dig her own grave before I made the final move. The night before the dinner, I met with Mark. He had been tailing Sarah for the last few days, gathering more evidence. He handed me a thick envelope full of texts and photos. He looked around before speaking. "She's been in touch with the dealer again," Mark said, his voice low. "She's meeting him tomorrow afternoon. I don't know what's going on, but she's planning something. She's trying to move the second painting. And he has got photos of her handing over money to the guy." I went through the contents of the envelope, feeling a mix of anger and satisfaction. This was the final nail in the coffin. Sarah thought she was going to get away with it, but now she had nowhere to hide. The proof was all there. Tomorrow, everything would come to light. At that moment, my phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. "Dad, are you sure about the dinner tomorrow? It's been feeling like things are getting a little tense between us." It was a subtle jab, but I could feel the unease in her words. She was trying to make me second-guess myself. But I wasn't going to give in. This was happening. "It's just dinner, Sarah. No need to worry," I replied, keeping it casual, making sure to sound as if nothing was wrong. But I knew she was paying attention. She was watching, waiting for me to slip up. I was careful, but I knew my next move had to be perfect. As the day of the dinner arrived, the tension grew unbearable. My hands shook slightly as I set the table, but I couldn't afford to show weakness. I had come this far, and I wasn't going to back down now. The act would unfold just as I had planned. Sarah arrived precisely at 7:30. Just as I had anticipated, she stepped into the house, her heels clicking sharply on the floor. She smiled. But there was something in her eyes, something guarded, like she knew that the moment of reckoning was close. "Everything all right?" I asked, feigning innocence. She nodded quickly, but I could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes. "Yeah, just a little stressed. You know how it is." I smiled to myself, watching her carefully as she took her seat. She had no idea what was about to unfold. I had already set the stage, and now it was time for her to walk right into the trap. I kept the conversation light at first, making small talk, trying to keep her at ease. But with each passing minute, I felt the walls closing in on her. She couldn't keep up the charade forever. I watched her fidget with her napkin, glancing around nervously, but she wasn't nervous for the reasons she thought. She wasn't worried about our dinner conversation. She was worried that I was onto her, that I had something she couldn't control. The air was thick with tension as I set the fake cursed painting in front of her. "I thought we could start with something familiar," I said, my voice calm, a reminder of the past. Her eyes darted to the painting, then back to me, and I could see the fear creeping into her expression. She was trying to mask it, but it was there, unmistakable. "Dad, Why did you keep this? I thought we agreed. She trailed off, her voice faltering. You know, Sarah, I said, my voice colder now. There's a lot I didn't know, a lot I wasn't seeing. I leaned forward, letting the weight of my words sink in. But now I see everything. I know about the debts, the dealer, the second painting, and I know you've been using me, manipulating me for months. Her breath hitched, and for a moment she seemed lost for words. The confidence she had been projecting was unraveling before my eyes. She could feel the walls closing in, but there was nowhere to hide. You think you can just lie to me, manipulate me for your own gain? I continued, my voice steady, but full of fury. You've been using the painting as a pawn in your game, Sarah, and now I'm going to make sure you pay for it. Her face paled, the color draining from her cheeks as she scrambled for something to say, something to twist her way out of this. But there was no escape now. You're finished, Sarah, I said quietly. The words final, the truth is coming out. And you're going to answer for everything. The family dinner had reached its boiling point. Sarah was trembling now, but she refused to back down. I could see the panic in her eyes, the subtle, frantic glances she kept throwing at the door, as though she could run away from the trap I had set for her. But there was no escape. I stood up slowly, taking my time. The air between us was thick, charged with everything I had been holding back. I could feel the weight of the evidence I had gathered, the digital recorder hidden on the table, and the fake cursed painting now staring at Sarah like a mocking reminder of the lie she had built. Do you really think I said I'm just going to let you walk away from this, Sarah? I said, my voice low but firm. You said lied, manipulated, and used me to cover up your greed, but now the truth is here. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Sarah Sips's lips trembled, but she quickly masked it with a defensive smirk. You don't know what you're talking about, Dad, she said, but the shakiness in her voice gave her away. This is ridiculous. You're overreacting. You're just... I said not overreacting, I interrupted, my voice rising slightly. I said been patient. I said waited long enough. But you've crossed the line this time, and now you've are going to face the consequences. I stepped to the side, reaching for the envelope that held the full extent of Sarah's betrayal. The documents, the bank records, the transactions, the truth laid out in black and white. I slammed it down on the table in front of her. She froze, her eyes darting to the envelope before she quickly looked away, as though avoiding it would make it disappear. What is this? She asked, her voice rising in panic. What are you trying to do? I opened the envelope, sliding the documents across to her. This is your future, Sarah. This is everything you said been hiding from me. The money transfers, the debts, the phone calls with the art dealer, the second painting you been planning to sell. It's all here. I paused for a moment, watching her face, enjoying the twisted satisfaction of watching her squirm. She didn't speak. Instead, she just stared at the papers, her face pale and her mouth moving soundlessly. I have everything, I continued, my tone growing colder with each word. The truth. And now you have nowhere to hide. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the documents, but I didn't let her take them. I grabbed the second envelope I had prepared, the one that held the final piece of the puzzle. I tossed it onto the table. She looked at it and then back at me, her breathing shallow. What is this? She whispered, fear creeping into her voice now. This, I said, leaning in, is your undoing. I slid the second envelope across to her. This was the real bombshell. The document inside confirmed everything I needed to expose her to the world. The signed agreement from the art dealer, detailing how she had used the painting as collateral for even more loans. How she had planned to sell it again to a third party for profit. It was damning. Sarah Sip's face contorted as she quickly scanned the paper, her expression falling as she realized what I had just handed her. No, she whispered, her voice shaking. You don't understand. I didn't want any of this to happen. Don't lie to me, Sarah, I said, my voice hard as stone. You've been planning this for months. You've been lying to me, manipulating me every step of the way. You even had the audacity to pretend that the painting was cursed, knowing full well you were using me to pay off your debts. Her eyes darted to the recorder sitting on the table, and I could see the panic starting to bubble over. She reached for it, but I grabbed her hand before she could get to it. You think I finch I'm going to let you spin this, don't test you? I said, my grip firm. This is it. The truth is already on record, and everyone is going to know exactly who you are. Her eyes filled with tears, but she wiped them away, trying to regain her composure. Dad, please. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just... Her voice cracked, and for a moment I saw a flicker of the daughter I once knew, but it was gone just as quickly. You were just what, Sarah? I asked, my voice cutting through the air like a knife. You were just trying to ruin me for money? For what? So you could live a better life while I bled? That Sep's the daughter I raised? She swallowed hard, shaking her head. I didn't set mean for it to go this far. It just got out of hand. I was desperate. Desperate? I spat, my anger rising. You knew what you were doing. You knew exactly what this was. And now, it's Sep's too late. I turned to the final piece of my plan. The courtroom showdown that would follow. I had arranged everything. David would make sure the legal battle was airtight. The evidence would be irrefutable. I would make sure she paid not just financially, but emotionally. She would feel every ounce of betrayal she had put me through. The dinner table felt smaller now, as though the walls were closing in. Sarah's attempts at deflection were getting weaker. Her pleas more desperate, but I wasn't done. Not yet. I supped done with you, Sarah, I said, my voice quiet but final. You Sep lost. And now everyone will know the truth. I stood up, pushing my chair back. Sarah remained seated, the weight of everything finally sinking in. She had no more lies to tell, no more games to play. And as I turned to walk away, I heard her voice break one last time. Dad, please, don't do this. But I didn't look back. This was the price of betrayal. And Sarah was about to pay it. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. I had prepared myself for the consequences, but nothing could have fully prepared me for the emotional wreckage left in the wake of what I had done. As the days passed, the weight of my actions settled heavily on my chest. There were moments of clarity when I knew I had done what was right, what had to be done, but there were other moments when the guilt crept in. Sarah was arrested the morning after the dinner. It happened quickly. David had already filed the necessary paperwork, and the charges against her were undeniable. The forged signatures, the illegal money transfers, the lies about the painting. It was all there, meticulously laid out. Sarah had no choice but to face the consequences. But even as I watched her being taken away in handcuffs, I couldn't shake the feeling that something important had been broken, something irreparable. Yes, she had betrayed me. Yes, she deserved to be held accountable. But as a father, how could I ever undo the damage this had caused to our relationship? The trial was set for early December, and I attended every single day. Watching Sarah sit there, her once confident demeanor now broken, was surreal. She barely looked up, barely acknowledged my presence. There was no apology, no remorse. Only the cold realization that she was losing everything. Her life, her future, shattered by her own greed. It was strange to see her like that. The girl I had raised, the one who used to run to me when she was hurt, the one who had asked for my guidance, my approval, was gone. She had replaced that girl with someone else. Someone who had abandoned everything for the sake of money. And now all I could do was watch as her world came crashing down. As the trial progressed, the evidence against her piled up. The fake cursed painting, the forged documents, the money laundering. Everything came to light in excruciating detail. The dealer, Vincent, was subpoenaed, and his testimony made it even worse for Sarah. He confirmed everything. Her plan had been far more intricate than I had realized, and her desperation to escape the consequences was now obvious. But still, even as I sat there listening to the case unfold, there was a nagging emptiness inside me. Justice was being served, yes, but at what cost? My lawyer, David, had been supportive through it all, but even he seemed to notice the shift in me. You've done what you had to do, Thomas, he said one evening after the day post-proceedings. But I know it's weighing on you. Don't to let this consume you. I done what was right, I said, the words tasting foreign in my mouth. But it doesn't feel like it. I Sepp lost something I can never get back. David gave me a sympathetic look. Family is never simple, my friend. You did what you had to do, but that doesn't make it easy. The trial ended with a guilty verdict. Sarah was sentenced to prison for her crimes, fraud, money laundering, and the manipulation of family heirlooms. It wasn't the life I had imagined for her, but it was the life she had created, the life I had been forced to uncover. As the sentence was handed down, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relief. I felt hollow. Later that evening, I stood in front of Catherine's study, the room where she had spent countless hours writing, reading, and planning for our future. The room that had once been filled with the promise of love now felt cold and empty. The painting, the last piece of her, was gone. And so was Sarah. The last vestige of our family was slipping away. The consequences of Sarah's betrayal had extended beyond her. I walked slowly to the window, staring out at the city that felt so distant now. The world outside hadn't changed. The world was still turning, but inside me it felt like the foundation had cracked. The pieces of my life that had been held together by love, by loyalty, by memory, were now scattered. And for the first time in years I asked myself, was it worth it? Was the justice I had fought for worth the cost of everything I had lost? In the days that followed, I found myself alone. The house once filled with life was now quiet. The rooms echoed with nothing but memories, and the only thing that remained was the knowledge that I had won. But in winning, I had lost more than I could have imagined. The finality of it all hit harder than I expected. Sarah was behind bars, her fate sealed by the very actions she thought would secure her future. The courtroom had been her stage, and I had been the one to expose her. Every word I had spoken, every document I had presented had led to this. The justice I had sought for so long was finally in my grasp. But as I sat in my study, the house feeling emptier than ever, I realized that justice wasn't the victory I had imagined it would be. I had reclaimed the painting. It was back in my hands, restored to its rightful place, a symbol of Catherine's love, a legacy I thought I had lost forever. But standing in front of the painting now, I couldn't shake the sense of emptiness. The colors on the canvas were as vibrant as ever, but they no longer held the same meaning. They no longer represented the life I had shared with my wife. They now stood as a cold reminder of what had been taken from me, not just by Sarah, but by my own choices. I had fought for the truth, fought to reclaim what was mine, but in doing so, I had shattered something far more precious than the painting: my family, my connection to my daughter. I ran my fingers over the frame, the cool wood beneath my touch offering no comfort. The painting had been Catherine's gift to me. But what had I really won? Sarah was gone, her future destroyed, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had lost mine too. The phone rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I picked it up without thinking, and David's voice came through, calm and steady. "Thomas, I just wanted to check in. I know this has been a tough time for you." I nodded, though he couldn't see me. "It's over. It's all over." I couldn't keep the weariness from my voice. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice carrying a note of concern. "I know you've been through a lot, but you need to take care of yourself too." I paused, staring at the painting. "I thought this would feel different, David. I thought I'd have closure. But instead, all I feel is emptiness." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then David spoke again, his tone soft. "Justice doesn't always give us what we expect, Thomas. Sometimes it just leaves us with the truth. And the truth is, you did the right thing. You fought for what was yours. You fought for your wife's legacy. But it's okay to feel lost now. That's part of it." I swallowed hard, the weight of his words sinking in. I thought I could fix everything, but all I've done is destroy it. "You didn't destroy anything," David said firmly. "You exposed the truth, and sometimes that sips all we can do. But now it sips up to you to rebuild." I didn't know what to say. The truth felt so final, so cold. I had fought so hard to bring justice. But now, standing in the quiet aftermath, I realized that justice wasn't the balm I had hoped it would be. I hung up the phone and sat back in my chair, the weight of the silence pressing down on me. The house, once filled with memories of love and laughter, now felt like a mausoleum. a hollow shell. As I stared at the painting again, I asked myself if it was really worth it. I had reclaimed what was mine, but in doing so I had lost everything I had fought so hard to protect. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't undo the choices I had made, but maybe, just maybe, I could begin to heal. The truth had been exposed. Justice had been served. But as I stood there in the quiet of the study, I realized that the hardest part wasn't the fight. It was learning to live with the cost of it all. As the days passed, I found myself looking at the painting with a new understanding. It wasn't just a piece of art. It wasn't just a reminder of my wife. It was a lesson in loss, a reminder that no victory comes without its price. I walked away from the study, my heart heavy with the knowledge that justice, while necessary, didn't always heal the wounds it uncovered. It simply gave us the truth we had been avoiding. And sometimes the truth was more painful than we could bear. Time has a way of dulling the sharpest edges. It's been weeks since the trial, since Sarah's arrest, since everything I had fought for came crashing down. The house feels quieter now, emptier. The echoes of the past, the memories of Catherine and the life we built, seem more distant with every passing day. The painting is still here, hanging on the wall in its rightful place, but it no longer feels like the beacon of hope it once was. Now it's just a reminder of what I lost, a reminder of the cost of seeking justice. I thought that when the truth came to light, when Sarah was held accountable for everything she had done, I'd finally be able to breathe easy. I thought it would bring me peace, closure. But it didn't. It only left me with more questions. What was the point of all this? Was it worth it? I find myself asking that question more and more. The truth I uncovered didn't make things better. It didn't fix the years of damage, the years of manipulation and lies. It didn't give me back my daughter, my family. It didn't return Catherine. All it gave me was an empty house and a victory that felt hollow. I spent an afternoon sitting in the study, staring at the painting. I hadn't really looked at it since the trial. Not like this. Not with so much weighing on me. I ran my hand along the frame, feeling the cold wood beneath my fingers. The painting had been a symbol of love, of family. But now it felt like something else. Something lost. It wasn't just Catherine's legacy anymore. It was a marker of everything that had fallen apart. I thought about Sarah, about how I had raised her to be better than this. I thought about the little girl who used to run to me for comfort, who used to look up to me with those big, trusting eyes. How had she become this person? The woman who lied, who manipulated, who betrayed the very people who loved her. What had gone wrong? I don't, have the answers. Maybe I never will. I leaned back in the chair, the weight of the past pressing down on me. The trial was over, Sarah was behind bars, but the scars remained, and they would remain. I had lost something irreparable in this process, something I could never get back. I thought about the phone call with David a few days ago. He had tried to reassure me, told me that what I had done was necessary, that I had done the right thing, but I wasn't sure anymore. What was right? What was just? The law had been served, but I wasn't sure it had made anything better. Maybe that's the truth I've been avoiding, that justice isn't always a clean thing. It's messy. It's painful. And sometimes it doesn't bring you peace. It brings you loss, and you have to learn to live with it. The truth was, I didn't just lose Sarah in this fight. I lost myself, the man I was before this, the father I thought I was. I don't recognize him anymore. All I see now is a man who fought for what was right and lost the things that truly mattered. I stood up and walked over to the window. The world outside seemed so unchanged. The city buzzed with life, people going about their daily routines, unaware of the storm that had raged within the walls of my home. The painting, the trial, Sarah's betrayal, none of it mattered to them. They didn't know what it had cost me, what it had cost us. And maybe that was for the best. The world didn't need to know. It didn't need to see the cost of justice. Only I did. And I had to carry it alone. I turned away from the window and walked back to the study, standing in front of the painting once more. It was a symbol of love, of family, of everything I had lost. But it was also a symbol of the truth that I had fought so hard to uncover, the truth that had broken me. The truth that sometimes, in order to fight for what's right, you have to lose everything. And even when justice is served, the cost of it never goes away. I took one last look at the painting, a silent goodbye to everything that had once been. Then I walked away, knowing that I could never go back, that the past would always be with me, that the truth, no matter how painful, would always be a part of who I was.